I'm going to tell you how to withdraw money so you never run out if you are retiring early. I'm going to give you the financial answer and the real life answer, and they're very different, and you're going to see why. Now, to start, I want to give you a really basic example that I find resonates with my clients, and you can tell me if it resonates with you. So I want you to think about withdrawing income in retirement like being a business owner. Let's assume that you're a business owner and your business is doing really well. You might go out and hire. Maybe you buy new equipment. Maybe you invest in some other aspect of the business that you think can help it grow. But if business isn't doing well, you're probably not going to do those things. Maybe you temporarily cut hiring or don't buy that piece of equipment. I want you to think about that example when you're withdrawing income in retirement. Most people don't. And they go, I want to spend $6,000 a month in retirement. And they close their eyes and they just take $6,000 a month no matter what. Now, we're going to talk about taxes and inflation and how all of that relates, especially with an early retirement. You need the income for 40, 50 plus years. But you're all right now, because I know you guys, wondering, well, why'd you give me that dopey example? Well, here's why. When markets are doing well in retirement, I am telling my clients, I need you to go spend more because you told me you didn't want to leave too much to your children. And I'm going to be pissed if you don't fly first class because you told me these are the years you have your energy and you have your health and you want to do it. But I am not Mr. Nice Guy. In fact, I joke, I am the meanest early retirement advisor. I do not want you to overspend. I do not want you to run the risk of running out of money or going back to work. So there are going to be months where I say, hey, I know you want to spend $8,000 a month. These are not the months to do it. I want you to temporarily cut back spending, not forever, but for these few months. And here's what that means. And most of my clients go, whoa, I didn't know that was an $80,000 decision this year. I didn't know what I was maybe leaving on the table by just temporarily cutting expenses a little bit. My point here, most people take a cookie cutter approach and go, no matter what markets do, hopefully it all just kind of evens out. I'm going to take $6,000 a month or $8,000 a month. And my clients, by the way, we're sending the monthly income as well, but they're not just saying, yep, $8,000 a month, and they've been educated and trained well at this point, where they go, yeah, I know markets are doing well, and I'm probably going to be able to spend more this year, and markets aren't doing well, so I'm ready to cut back. And when we do cut back, we don't just do it for the sake of doing it. Maybe we do more Roth conversions to enhance why we're doing it. So I'll often find I'm doing a lot of work for my clients when markets are going down to take advantage of it so that they have more lifetime income. I'm going to give you one more example, and then we're going to go through the order of operations that I tell my clients, and it's pretty standard across most advisors, but there's a few nuanced details you have to think about because it's an early retirement. So here's my best story, and this is a real story. I just try to keep it engaging because I imagine a lot of you are not dreaming of withdrawal rates when you're going to bed, okay? So I try to keep it as fun as I can. Now, I find it very fun, but I hope you guys feel the same way. So check this out. Client came to me in 2020 and they wanted to retire early, but they were really worried. At the time, their withdrawal rate was 5.8%. That was too high for me, so they did not have my green light to retire, but they really did not enjoy their job. They really did not enjoy it. They go, all right, I'm open to finding some part-time income doing something else, but I cannot do what I'm doing anymore. You're not at work all day like I am, and you'd quit if you were me. I go, look, I believe you. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you don't have my green light to retire early with confidence that you won't ever run out. Doesn't mean it couldn't occur. It's just, I want to make sure you're doing it right. They go, yep, I get that. I'm on the same page, but I'm going to stop. So they stopped working at the time and they were looking for another job. They weren't just saying, hey, yep, I'm retiring forever. And I said, hey, let's have another meeting. They're like, we just met last week. I'm like, I know, I want to have another one. And they're like, why are you making me talk to you every day? I go, not every day, just trust me. So we had a long conversation. I said, hey, I don't know what markets are going to do. And remember, this is in 2020, okay, when COVID occurred. And this was in January. And I was like, listen, I don't know what markets are going to do. None of us ever know, but we can plan for if markets go down, here's some opportunities. And so if markets do go down and we're going to implement some Roth conversions, this could really change your retirement because kind reminder for most of you, Roth conversion, when you move money from your IRA to your Roth IRA and it grows, it's tax-free forever. So a lot of people are willing to pay a little bit in taxes to avoid a lot in the future, and it can mean you can spend a lot more. So here they are, their withdrawal rate higher than I would like. All of a sudden, it's March 2020. They haven't found their dream job yet, and markets are down legitimately 20, 25% in their portfolio. We did a lot of Roth conversions, and so now we move money from their IRA to their Roth. Now, when that occurred, and I am big, I'm all about time in the market, not timing the market. I don't believe in that. But I do believe in not just sitting on your hands when markets go down and doing nothing. So what we did is we did these Roth conversions. Now, we got very fortunate with the timing. And what occurred is the markets went down 20, 25%. and they fully recovered 6 weeks later. We moved about $280,000 from their IRA to their Roth IRA. They paid a lot in tax at the time, which was not fun. And now all of a sudden their portfolio, a large portion was tax-free and it had fully recovered and then some. Fast forward, they did find a job that they were enjoying. They did not stop working. They worked for about 6 to 8 more months. And now, because markets were doing well and a lot of it was in a tax-free bucket, they're now on track for a tremendous retirement. And I now get to tell them their withdrawal rate's too low, meaning based on what they want to spend, they're not spending enough because they will die with too much money and they don't have children and they don't want to leave it to legacy. That's not what they want to do. So the point of the story here is not trying to time the market. I don't believe in that. But if you're open to being dynamic and saying, wait a second, markets might go down, I can kind of take advantage of that, or you know what, markets are doing well, I'm going to maybe spend a little more. Keep it simple. Let's assume you have $1 million. Well, let's assume you get an 8% rate of return. Your $1 million now just went up by 8%. So now you have $80,000. You can take that $80,000 and say, I'm not going to spend it. I'm going to let it stay in my portfolio and let it keep compounding. Great. You can say, you know what, maybe I do take an extra $30,000 because 50 is still going to go to my portfolio. Maybe you're still working today or you have other income sources. I don't know your situation. But the point here is when markets are doing well, I'm asking my clients to please spend more, not forever and in the habit of it, but going, listen, if you're open to being dynamic with your withdrawal rates in retirement, you can have a lot of success. So here's my issue with the primary rules you see everywhere online. You've maybe heard of Bill Bengen. Now, Bill Bengen, he was the one that first really put into practice the 4% rule. Now, the 4% rule, if you haven't heard of it, says you can take 4% out of your portfolio and you won't run the risk of running out of money. My issue is it's designed for 30 years. So if you retire at 65 and die at 95, great. Now you're losing a lot of money on the table by doing this, but you could do it and probably get away with it. Most of my clients don't want to get away with it. They want to optimize what they've worked so hard for. And that's the real difference. So I told my client in this example, I said, hey, that 4% rule that because, a lot of clients come to me, hey, have you heard about this? And I'm like, well, no, what's that? I try to keep myself involved. So as much as can, I got to stay fun for them. And they're like, I feel like you've heard of this. I'm like, no, I really, and they're like, no, you talked about it. I go, yeah, come on. So anyway, my point here, and I joke with my clients a lot. If we're not having fun the whole way, it's like, what are we doing here? So with them, they're like a 4% rule. Ari, why don't you like it? I have $2 million. You're telling me I can't take out $80,000? I go, is it really 80? They go, yeah, I'm not some kind of CFP like you, but I can still do math. I go, no, it's not 80 because you have $2 million. You want to take out $80,000? Great. Are you really living on 80,000 or are you saying, wait a second, I'm living on 80,000, but I had to pay taxes to be able to end up with 80,000? And they're like, more of the latter. I go, so let's just keep it simple. Assume you have $1 million. You want to take out $40,000. Are you taking out $40,000 because everything's in a Roth IRA? For most of you, it's not. Most of you have a large amount in pre-tax assets, IRA, maybe even a brokerage account. And so you probably have to take out 45, 50, or 55,000 to end up with $40,000 that you can actually spend. You have to withhold for taxes. And they're like, oh. The other issue with the 4% rule here, and I'm not here to beat it up, I just want to always look, hey, what else is out there? Think about it like going to the dentist. You go to the dentist, they could use the same tools that they had 30 years ago, or they could use the modern tools. I prefer the modern tools. So I'm personally always looking, hey, what other studies have been done that show you can do a better job if you're following certain rules? You don't just get to do it for doing its sake. You don't get extra points like that. So my client's like, okay, explain it to me deeper. I go, okay, here's the issue with the 4% rule for those that want to nerd out with me. Hang in here with me. So the 4% rule, it's based on a 30-year retirement, and it is assuming that you essentially go, I'm going to only invest in intermediate term U.S. bonds and U.S. large caps, those S&P 500 that you hear talk about. So that's great, but most of you are more diversified than that. And there's another study done by John Guyton who said, I align more with this guardrails approach. Markets do well, you take a little more. Markets do less, you take a little less. Now, there's a whole study on this. And if you really want to dive into it, you can look up the guardrail study. But the point here to really understand in plain English is if you're open to being dynamic and you follow a certain set of rules and you take from certain spots based on what markets are doing, you can take out between 5.2 to 5.6% of your portfolio, and you will not run the risk of running out of money for 40 plus years, which is a lot more applicable to a retirement. So a lot of you are watching right now go, okay, that's kind of cool. I never considered there's a different approach here. And there is. I'm not married to it. John Guyton doesn't pay me and Bill Bengen doesn't hate me. I just want my clients to optimize what they've worked so hard for. I don't want them working longer than they need to. So a lot of you are going, hey, this is great, but like, what's the, like, just give me actionable, like, do I pull from my cash or my IRA or my pre-tax or my brokerage? What do I do? Here's the answer. Okay, I'm going to give you the financial answer. Now I'm going to tell you not to do it, but I'm going to give it to you. So here's the financial answer. And some of you are listening right now going, whoa, you really kind of are the meanest advisor. Yeah, not because I'm actually mean, but because I don't want you to retire too early and run the risk of running out. So the financial answer is actually pretty simple. If you have cash that you want to live off of, great. You can live off cash. From there, maybe you have a brokerage account or a superhero that I talks about, like your joint account or individual account. From there, so cash, brokerage, pre-tax assets like an IRA or a 401k, then your Roth IRA. Don't touch the Roth IRA first because that's your best account. It's going to compound and grow tax-free. Let it do that. So like, okay, that's pretty simple here. But, what about the fact that, I don't have a lot in cash right now? I'll tell you how I do it for my clients and I'll give you a real example. So most of you are like, okay, I got it. So pull from cash, maybe a brokerage account, then pre-tax like an IRA or 401k, then a Roth IRA. Okay, I kind of got that. But let's assume your brokerage account has Apple stock and you bought it for $10,000 and now it's worth $10 million. Are you still going to follow the kind of cash and then brokerage and the pre-tax and the Roth? I'm like, no, because now you'd be paying so much in taxes that it would actually make sense to skip level 2. So no longer are we going to do cash brokerage. We might do cash pre-tax like a 401k or an IRA, because if we were to pull from here, there'd be huge tax consequences. Now, I'm going to give you a pro example to understand when maybe you might want to do this. Check this out. Now, some of you have seen me do this example before, and some of you haven't. And if you haven't, I'm not saying this is going to blow your mind, but it might make you think a little differently. So this is our important number sheet. You can see our tax bracket system and how all of this kind of gets played out. This is where some of you send me notes like, is this how you spend your weekends? I'm like, yeah, but don't nerd out on me for that. So let me give you an example. Actually, you can nerd out on me, that don't make fun of me. So here's my point. Make fun of me. I'm okay with it. So you can see here, if you want to be able to pay 0% in taxes, I'm not talking like Ozark, Netflix stuff where you're breaking rules and it's illegal. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about real tax planning. Here's an example, okay? So let's assume you're a married couple and you make married couple and you do not make any income, okay? Married couple, you do not make any income. What this means is you could essentially sell a stock that's done really well, pay 0% in taxes up to $94,050. You're like, whoa, what do you mean? Single $47,025. But let me give you an example. I have a real client. They bought Microsoft stock, very, very low. Now, Microsoft stock, let's keep it simple. They bought it for $10,000. Now it's worth $100,000. That's a $90,000 gain, assuming they have no interest, no dividends, no Social Security, no rental income, no pension. What they could do is they could sell the Microsoft stock they bought for $10,000, which now is worth $100,000. That's a $90,000 gain. They could go sell it and they would pay 0% taxes. That's right. They would not pay any taxes on that Microsoft stock. You see, I don't know if you can hear it on the audio, but I live by UCLA and there's a hospital and they're freaking out. They're equally excited about this concept right here, okay? What you can see here is this is powerful stuff. Now let's assume they bought it for 10 and it went to 110. Whoa, that's totally different. Ari, what are you going to do here? That's a $100,000 gain. What that now means is $94,050 is 0% taxes, okay? And then the remainder amount, the other, so not 100,000, but 100,000 minus the 94,050, the 5,950, that's taxed at 15%. It now jumps to the next bracket. So the majority of you, it's not going to work out this magically, but maybe you do retire and your income's low because you don't have a 401k or an IRA and you don't want to pull from it yet and you have the ability to kind of be strategic or you have cash. Well, what you might want to do is go, I've got a few different stocks that I've done well. Maybe I sell a portion. Maybe I sell like 40,000 this year, pay 0% taxes. Maybe I pay, 60,000, the next year and then 80,000 and you space it out. Now it depends on how early you retire, but this is a really powerful thing. But it's not just that. I kind of felt like an infomercial guy. That's not it. What it also means is you can add in the standard deduction. So if your standard deduction, let's call it 30,000 to keep it simple, is 30,000 and you have up to 94,000, you're like, whoa. You're telling me I've got like $124,000 that I could essentially realize in gains and pay 0% taxes on? That's exactly what I'm telling you. So the point here, you're like, okay, so I kind of got it before. It was cash and then brokerage, but wait a second, how much cash do you recommend? We're going to talk about it. Cash and then brokerage and then pre-tax and then Roth. There are instances I am recommending a little bit of a little bit of brokerage and then pre-tax. Sometimes it's not that at all. Sometimes it's you have such healthy gains there. I don't want to interrupt those because you just pay so much in taxes and you're already in a high tax bracket. So here we are here, and we're going to use your IRA, your 401k. Now, most of my clients, I tell them I like when they have a year's worth of cash, like living expenses, just set aside, not in actual cash in like a money market or inflation protected securities, but I want them to have a minimum of a year's worth. So if they're like, hey, we know we want to spend $8,000 a month and also, $20,000 on travel, great. Let's have all of that and kind of ready to go. So you have your income. It's like, hey, no matter what happens this year, we have our income for the year. Then at the end of the year, every year with my clients, I'm like, hey, here's how much income I want you to have for the next year based on what markets are doing. And it's not me saying I'm not going to change it. It might fluctuate, but here's what we're planning on. Think about it like going bowling. You're going bowling. If you're going bowling, that's great, but there's a cheat code because bowling can be difficult. You're like, what's the cheat? The cheat is bowling with the bumpers up. And that's what it's like having an advisor in your corner going, hey, here's the most you can spend. Here's the least you can spend based on what markets are doing. And that is our job. So the point here, I want you to have enough cash. Normally I recommend about a year's living expenses at all times. Now there's a lot of nuanced details you can imagine of, well, how do I generate cash for the following year? And how do I know where to pull from? Well, it depends. Do you have a lot of healthy gains? How much is pre-tax? How much is Roth? And it gets complicated. But to keep it really simple, you've got your cash. You've got your IRAs, your 401ks, you have a brokerage account, you have a Roth IRA, you have a lot of different accounts. You want to make sure that you're letting that Roth IRA grow tax-free for as long as possible. You want to, if possible, pull from your brokerage account as opposed to your pre-tax 401ks or IRAs. You're like, whoa, why? Well, capital gains brackets are lower than the marginal brackets we have here. So this is the marginal bracket system. Capital gains brackets, they're way lower. So you see the 0 and the 15, that's lower than most of you are going to be paying 22 or 24. And if you can pay 0, that's even better than paying 10 or 12. So most of you have the ability to be really strategic as to how you pull income. Now, guys, this is all optimization, next level fun stuff that I love. Now, if you're watching this go, whoa, this changed the way I'm looking at retirement, how much income I can withdraw. Awesome. I want you to retire early. I love talking about it, not because I love it, but because I want to make sure you work because you want to, not because you have to. All of this stuff I love, not because I love it, but because it lets you live a better life. You can spend more time with your family and your friends doing more of what you actually want to do. So if this video is helpful, please do like it, comment, subscribe for more information like this. And if you're looking for holistic planning, this is, of course, what we love to do. So I invite you to see in the description below. You can go ahead and apply to work with us and see what does our holistic approach really look like? How do we help clients do this? That's it for today, guys.